So, good evening, everybody. Everything is connected and we can start. I would like to present everybody, to introduce everybody. My name is Andrei Kolpakchi. I'm your moderator today, as the director of Молодість Film Festival. I introduce everybody by the picture that I can see. Anastasia Bukovska, and Stanislav Tula, our producers from Ukraine. Then I see Maria Gradovska-Tomov, head of International Relations Department at Polish Film Institute. Barbara Legasova, Czech Film Center. Julieta Zicher, producer from Czech Republic, our very good friend who supported Молодість Film Festival for many years. Then I see Wratіслав Sаєр. It's been now chairman of Czech Producers Association. Євгенія Яцута, executive producer at Radioactive Film, Ukraine, and not the last, but really at least. And I would like to give the first word for the Minister of Culture in Ukraine, from Ukraine, Olександр Ткаченко. Alexander, please say at first about the situation in Ukraine, about the platform for co-production that is really was made a lot for the last years. Please.
First of all, I would like to welcome all of you. Glad to see you live in good health, despite what you're going through online. And I'm very much pleased to tell you that in past years there were several examples of good cooperation between our countries. Probably I would mention Naja as a line, and Gareth Jones, at least two big movies which were produced in co-production between Poland and Ukraine and Slovakia and Ukraine. But there were a lot of other examples quite successful. And I know that recently RADA, which Kolpakchi is part of it, announced recently several production agreements. As far as I know, 6 of them is Poland, one is Slovakia, one during production in Slovakia, Poland and Ukraine. I'm very glad to hear that we are still in line of developing this trend, and hope that recent changes happened with Ukrainian rebate system. We passed changes to the law which cancelled the VAT tax for 25% of our rebates. So all of those who are participating now in co-production with Ukraine can at least go to our ministry, to Kino, to get privileges with rebate system. Recently, it was the first example of big production which happened in Ukraine by one French company, Apple Tree, which produced a movie for Netflix. And probably they will be the first one who can apply for rebate system in Ukraine. I also would like to emphasize that we have mentioned during production, which is part of Visegrad operation, and we're happy to see all in Ukraine and hold with this trend of co-production between our neighboring and friendly countries in the future. So I'm glad to invite you. Soon we'll be happy to speak with all of us personally, not through online, to continue this effort. Glad to see you all.
Thank you, Alexander. Only the problem that it's some phone in your micro. Maybe you can check a little bit. We heard you, but not very clear. So maybe it will be better to check something. Maybe you are in YouTube on the same time or something this. Sometimes it's...
You didn't hear anything?
Now it's much better, but okay. But okay,
I can repeat that we're happy to see all of you alive. We are happy to go ahead with our co-production and bring past the decisions about joint co-production with Polish friends and Slovakian friends, and even joint Polish, Slovakian, and Ukrainian. And we do have really now working rebate system of 25% minus VAT tax. So we're happy to see all of you since or sooner all our quarantine going to be finished. That's in brief.
Yeah, thank you. And very important that we are in the members of the Remarsh at least from the last year. That is very important too. So, some brief presentation of the situation in the country for co-production. Maybe we start from Poland, because Poland is ahead of Visegrad this year. And Maria, proszę, please. Say a few words. And maybe, Maria, what I would like to hear, and maybe everybody, anyway, we live now with COVID. We hope that we are healthy, but anyway, we are afraid about this. What steps during this period in Polish institutes were prepared? Please, Maria.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Andy. So maybe I will start briefly about the co-production landscape in Poland. So it looks pretty well. Co-productions are very important for us, and I think especially nowadays they're even much more important. If you even take a look at the festivals and the films which win the festivals, most of them are co-productions. So this is very important part of European landscape, and definitely also of Eastern Europe. So in Poland, we are super open for co-productions. We support them in different ways. In 2016, we started a minority co-production scheme, and we support about 12, 15, 16 projects per year. It works really good. And the co-production support is also very different. It depends on the project and depends on also artistic contribution. And it may vary from 50,000 euro till €500,000. And actually, just before our meeting, I have checked how many co-productions in Ukraine are being reviewed right now. So this year, in 2020, it's 10 co-productions, our mutual co-productions. 4 of them, even 5 of them had already received financing, and 5 of them will be reviewed this year. So it looks pretty well. Also, a year and a half ago, we finally launched the cash rebate scheme, which is of course intended more for high budget productions. So what else? 2 years ago, we also started support for distribution, which is also, I think, important to mention in terms of co-productions. Which means we try to support up to 50% of the budget of the distribution of a given film. It is intended for majority Polish productions, but of course it doesn't exclude minority, let's say, Ukrainian co-productions. And it is intended to support distributors within the Europe, because we are kind of limited by the Act on Cinematography. So beneficiaries here are European entities. But I think it is also important to know. So that's how it briefly looks in Poland in terms of co-productions. When we're talking about measures, we have taken well, there were a lot of measures. So it was also it was support for filmmakers, like for physical people. I mean, not for the companies. We also were very flexible in terms of the scheduling, which is of course obvious. We needed to adjust to the situation, so we made a lot of changes in our regulations try to adapt and trying to help our producers, because we are mostly working with producers, obviously. So, and there are also deadlines. So we prolongated all the deadlines. Also a lot of financing were moved from production to the development. It was launched an additional session for development projects. What else? Also, in terms of the taxes, which is also kind of important, there was a huge discussion what to do with VOD platforms. Because based on the cinematography, 1.5% of their budget, like distributors, broadcasters, and all the other entities benefiting from the film production, from the film market, are obliged to pass 1.5% of their income to the Polish Film Institute, which forms our budget we later on spent on production and on promotion as well, and of course on other programs. So there was a huge discussions what to do now, because cinemas were exempted from the paying, of course, because of the landscape. So it was introduced, the tax was introduced also on VOD platforms. So this is briefly how it looks right now. Of course, we're also discussing, but it's a wider topic. Everything like in every country, the main problems are guarantee funds. So this is being discussed right now, and also to ensure the whole chain is working. So cinemas are still like quite in a difficult situation. So these are the two main challenges for now. Because
Maria, allow me to ask you one thing. Of tax you introduced for VOD platforms, was it done through law or in which way?
It was done as a part of anti-crisis shield. It was introduced by the government. And because they would change. Frankly speaking, I do not know all the details because it was our legal who were involved in this. But it's not kind if you're asking about AVMS transposition. So it is kind of connected, but it was introduced as a part of an anti-crisis shield.
And do you have a program of support of cinema chains?
No. For the moment, we do not have. But this is also being discussed right now widely.
Thank you.
So we actually focused more on supporting producers in the first weeks and the first months of and filmmakers in the first months of pandemic. So now we have a bit like new challenges. So now the situation is more or less under control. We work like shootings are also back on track. So basically we are now working as usual. So now we're going to work more on other solutions. I mean on long-lasting solutions.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Maria. And of course, it's not only the question about co-production with Ukraine, but really about the co-production between Visegrad countries and Ukraine. So anyway, we have 3 voices from Czech Republic, and I would like maybe to ask Barbara from Czech Center, from Czech Institute, to say about the situation in Czech Republic.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here, at least like this, virtually. Just briefly, to sum up about the possibilities for co-production. There is we are, of course, very interested in co-productions, and there is a minority call at the Czech Film Fund every year. The budget at the call is 1.6 million euros. It's divided into 2 calls per year, and usually I'd say like around 15 to 20 projects are supported every year, but the number of applicants is growing quite fast. So there is actually a lot of competition. for the support, as I'm sure my fellow colleagues, producers, will confirm. And as I checked also the number of co-productions with Ukraine, there are actually not so many, or haven't been so many considered. One has been supported this year, and there is one recent co-production that has been finished last year and that I have to mention, and it's a co-production with Ukraine, and that's The Painted Bird, the historical film which actually screened last year at the Visegrad Cinema Days, as far as I remember. As for the support introduced in connection with the pandemic, there has been 3 special calls introduced at the fund in June, as far as I remember, and one was for support of cinemas, one was for support of distribution, and there was a special call for development, which for the first time included also the development of TV series. So that's basically it. Julieta or Vratslav, do you want to add something? I forgot.
Of course. Julieta, maybe.
I would just add that one of the main cases in March was like to keep the system going. So the Czech Film Fund kind of kept all the deadlines and all the money, and there's sort of additional money coming from the government to cover these special calls. So we're sort of still on looking for projects. One of the point was, I mean, COVID will be gone eventually, someday, hopefully soon, and we'll be ready to go back to filming and co-production. So we didn't want to have a gap in financing as some countries did. So all our deadlines are kept, and still you can sort of, you know, apply for minority co-productions and productions. And the fund supports producers, supports distributors, and also cinema owners with the sort of technical development.
Thank you, Vratslav. Julieta?
Yes, now it's working. Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to be here. As far as I know, among my colleagues, there is a big interest to co-produce with the Ukraine, so we are definitely very open. But like Barbara said, the competition is really very tough. The number of applications is actually growing with every call. And the call is only one. It's for all minority co-productions. So it's animations competing with documentaries, with short films. It's a mixture of everything. And there is, of course, like almost every Czech producer has at least one stroke project there with colleagues and from different countries, of course. But I think that for us, it's definitely very interesting to co-produce with the Ukraine and to find new colleagues and new topics.
Thank you. And I hope that Katarína with us, Katarína from Slovakian Institute. She was with us, but maybe for this minute she is not here, but we'll wait for her to have her voice. And Anastasia and Stanislav, who after the last competition, Julieta...
I need to run, unfortunately, but I would like to encourage you to come to Ukraine and to go with co-production. We do have in the budget enough money for this co-production, and I for sure know that filmmakers in Ukraine are quite interesting, especially in co-production with colleagues from neighborhood countries, both for series, both for films. Have a good day and good connection. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. Unfortunately, the Minister of Culture has not only cinema covered by him, but of course, libraries, museums, theaters, etc. Thank you for participation, Alexander. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anastasia, as we spoke, and Julieta mentioned very well, that anyway, the fund for co-production is limited in any countries. And I'm very glad that Ukraine for the last years are really involved, I can say, a lot in co-production. With Poland, it did not start yet, but with Poland we have the big project as Katyn, with Ukrainian co-production. Now, after this last session of pitching, we have 2 new co-production with Poland. One is a new film by Philip Bayan that will be equalization of the Ivashkevich novel. And Anastasia, you are involved together with Stanislav, of course, in the new project. Tell us a little bit about the difficulties and really the preference to work with.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Really, we are happy to be winners on new project. It's a co-production with Poland. It's project called Deep Frozen Goods with director Anna Maliszewska, and it's really very good project about 2 countries, about Poland and Ukraine. And this week we are waiting Anna Maliszewska, director and DOP, for location scout. We plan to shoot this project next summer. And now we are making locations count and casting and preparation. And of course, part from Ukraine, it's a minority part, but so very important. It's approximately 280,000 euro. And we plan to shoot Ukrainian part in Ukraine. It's like 10 shooting days for now, and it will be really good collaboration. We worked before with Anna Maliszewska, director. We made music video, and maybe Stanislav will help me a few words about
the contest, yeah, and about the pitching. First of all, it's very good that in Ukraine the pitching and the sessions are divided, the majority co-production and the minority co-production. And if in the majority co-production only Ukrainian directors can take part, in the minority co-production...
Not only, sometimes it can be...
Sometimes, yeah, but priority is for the Ukrainian directors. And in minority co-production session, there was a lot of foreigners, foreign directors, and it helps us, when it was separated, it helps a lot of projects to take part in this pitching and get money. And what is the difficulties in this project? First of all, it's a lot of paperwork, but it's in every country is the same situation when you have to do a lot of papers connecting with co-production to make it this co-production officially. And the second part is what your story is about, because if you're going co-production, I think that for now it's very important to find a team that not only one person from your movie is like Ukrainian just to get the money from the fund, but it's very important now to find and make more popular the team of the relations between the 2 countries, because for now we do not have a lot of Ukrainian, Polish, Ukrainian, Slovak stories, yeah, and movies. Only everyone knows 1, 2 movies, and it's after 10 years of developing of movie making in Ukraine. So I think that very important for today is find this teams that are important for both, for 3 countries, and this is it was a part of our project. Why it have won? Because it's a story about 2 countries.
I'm very glad to see Mr. Zanussi with us.
Well, hello. It is a nice surprise to me, but finally it works. It works in spite of the pandemic.
Sarajevo Film Festival. Did you find the winner for Sarajevo Film Festival?
I have my winner, but I'm not supposed to tell anybody.
Aha, okay.
So you know it later. But we had a very good selection. So we're very glad. Jury had no big problems.
We started a little bit to introduce everybody, and of course I don't need to introduce Mr. Zanussi. We spoke about the situation in the countries as a platform for co-production and some experiences. And you have experiences not only as director, but as producer too.
Well, but I was director of the films I was producing, so it was a combination. And probably when the director is producing his own film, he is oversensitive about all the problems and all the obstacles. However, I have good recollections, and the best proof is the first experience I took for a second time. Once it was with Mr. Kochen, one with Interfilm. And I would have one critical remark, the problem. It was not technical. Your technicians in Ukraine were fantastic, very reliable and good quality and enthusiastic. So absolutely, the organization was fine, much better than I expected. There were no problems with logistics and so on. You have great actors. There was a fantastic choice of actors. I had really, it was delightful to choose among the very good. Well, once I worked with Bogdan Stupko, so obviously I was impressed by him. But all the young actors I was hiring for my latest production, they were all very good as well. So on this field, and conditions and good hotels. So one that was reappearing regularly was the legal situation. The fact that in the first production, there was no, sorry, because I got a bit confused. In my first production, all the obligations of one government were not kept by the second one. We had for Foreign Affairs to remind that if one minister is signing something, if he is of party, political, I follow this, and it was a disappointment because it not. In this second production, kind of bureaucratic problems, probably, fortunately, I didn't know them because my prime was take all this on her own shoulders. But
sorry, we don't hear you. Pan Kshistov, we don't hear you.
Instability.
Yeah.
Things which were already promised, not always kept. So, yes. Well, my cousin is now trying to reopen.
Oh, okay. I think that
no change. Do you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
You do.
Now it's much better.
It's much better, all right. I cannot shout louder. But I just mentioned that this instability in resolving small problems and, to tell the truth, amount of little bribes that were necessary to achieve access to a door, to a key, to such little things, this was rather annoying, but not to the extent that I should disrecommend working in co-production with Ukraine. In opposite, I think Ukraine has a great potential and has very good services and very good talents. So there is no reason to complain. Nobody is perfect. Our problem now is what is going to happen to cinema after this virus. Would people come back to cinema or would they stay away? These are the biggest problems, how to keep financing of films. And this unites not only us in the Visegrad group, but all over Europe and all over the world. This problem touches Hollywood as much as it does touch Singapore or any other country. So we're facing a real disaster that I hope we will avoid, but it may happen anytime.
Thank you. I don't see Katarina from Slovakian Institute still. We miss her, but if she'll hear us, please connect with us. Євгенія Яцута from Ukraine, we still didn't hear you. It's a big company who started, as I know, mostly with advertising and now involving in the process of production. Do you want to say something, Evgenia?
Well, first of all, I think I'm representing here not only my company, but also our Film Industry Association of Ukraine, which I'm head of, and Anastasia Bukovskaya is also member in our association. And talking about radioactive film, yeah, we mostly were specialized for 22 years in commercial productions. Nevertheless, through those 22 years, we've shot as a service production and different volumes, but over 20 feature movies. And probably the most famous of that is Chernobyl TV series, which I hope everybody watched. And basically after that, we decided to like more focus on developing maybe the content for co-production, like in the full meaning of that. And we really truly regret that we lost that opportunity on the Chernobyl TV series, because basically the core problem was the absence of tax rebates, even though they were announced officially, but on practice it didn't work. And actually that false advertisement, too soon advertisement, worked against us at that moment. Luckily, we managed to do that even without tax rebates, which only proved the cost competence of Ukraine in general. And we really hope to work again with HBO. As they said, like if there would be a chance for second season, they would definitely shoot it fully in Ukraine instead of Lithuania. Hopefully that will be. We do have, now we're working on a TV series which we shoot as a service production for United States. And nevertheless, we have some projects in development for shooting that in co-production with Poland. They were too soon to be presented on the last pitching. So we'll be looking for the next year for that. And besides, we're all really looking forward to see how the tax rebates will finally work in Ukraine with the project which Alexandr Tkachenko mentioned in his speech, which was successfully finished.
Don't smile, it will work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping we're all like keeping our fingers really crossed. And I'm actually in a tight connection with the CEO of that production company in Ukraine. And we're consulting all the time about all the tricks and details which that law is actually needing still for like most comfortable usage. But I have to say that our current Minister of Culture is really focused on moving it forward in an efficient way. And we can see the positive results already with those recent changes to law applied. Despite of the quarantine and all the lockdowns, they still like managed to cancel that VAT for film services. So the tax rebates got much more interesting now, finally. That's something we were all fighting for quite a long time. So yeah, it just, let's hope that that financing and the further promises and effective developing of all that comes true. And yeah, I totally agree with Mr. Zanussi about the biggest issue we have at the moment is like the horrible crisis of the cinemas, how to get the audience back into them. because as we all know, with the VOD platforms, unfortunately, the distribution doesn't come helping paying out for the movies. And our film industry is also very interested in having like successful co-production projects instead of just losing money on financing movies which nobody sees afterwards. So that's one of the core points of our film co-production development as well.
Thank you, Evgenia. And I would like to speak about the common topics. What about we can make the production, some films? Okay, it was the movie by Agnieszka Holland about hunger in Ukraine, etc., etc. What we can, because for many years I know that Ukrainian topic in Polish cinema was about Ukrainian prostitutes. The same Polish prostitutes were very popular in Czech Republic, etc., etc. Now a lot of gastarbeiters who are working from Ukraine and from another countries, etc., etc. But I'm really Mr. Zanussi missed participation of our Minister of Culture, and really I work in the council, council with our state agencies that we really are responsible to give the money. And of course, when it's a question about co-production, it's a question not only where the money will be put, the shooting in the country, but the same about the common topic, about the problems to share, historical or modern, etc. For example, it was a lot of discussion about the equalization of the Nauczyciel, teacher, Polish movie by Filip Bajon, by Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz. You know, Iwaszkiewicz spent a lot of time in his young years were in Ukraine and in Kyiv. And really in this novel, it's describing some small city and village in Ukraine. And what about, what you can find something from history, from modern time? What do you think about this?
Actually, I would say that it's very important to find common topics, but they are, if they're beautiful and kind, they're not interesting for the movie makers, because for the movie you need to find a problem and show the problem. And if you are finding an interesting topic, there can be, as you said, prostitutes, smugglers, mobsters and so on. And in that case, when you are going to a state fund like Ukrainian State Film Agency, the commission will say that I want that Ukraine will be good and beautiful in this movie and another countries let be the bad guys. And the same situation is in all the countries. That's why it's a little bit problem to find exactly a topic that can be and common for both countries and will not hurt the feelings of the viewers of both sides. So I think that a light topic can be the family relations, like in our movies with two little girls who are traveling from one country to another, and they're teaching and they're learning about the culture of both countries. It's the first step. If we will be ready with the first movies that will make more popular as a co-production movies, then we can already make this difficult topics about the history, for example, but the history topic will be always very difficult, and we have to give the job for only the greatest directors who can really show the history in such a way that will show us the truth and not the point of view from one of the sides.
Thank you. Of course, there are a lot of common things in our history, even from this Soviet period, after the Second War, during the Second War, etc. Because I'm not young man, and of course I spent a lot of my life in Soviet regime, and it was really for me one of the most sad things that I felt. It was even when I was a child, 1956 in Hungary, then 68 in Czechoslovakia when Soviet tanks came there, and we were very nervous when it was Solidarność in Poland. Of course, it's very important. Without these 3 points, we could not break Berlin Wall and really to ruin this big Soviet imperium. So, of course, we have a lot of historical points. But anyway, Stanislav is right that it's very important to find not only the topic, but find the solution how to say this. And Mr. Zanussi, maybe you'll have some ideas, maybe you'll say us about your next movie. What about?
Well, obviously I'm ready. Do you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
You hear me. So, of course, yes, I'm preparing a new film. It will be called Perfect Number. It will be about a mathematician. In fact, originally, I was planning this project for Bogdan Stupko, and unfortunately, he is gone. But I think we must not forget, politicians don't even think about it, but we're in charge of national dreams. We have to formulate our desires. It is not so important how we depict the reality of today. Cinema and art is more than a mirror. Cinema has to establish what is our common dream, what kind of reality we want to see, and what is the obstacle. So dramaticity is something what we need, and in this moment, Ukraine's history is giving us a dramatic example of dramaticity, which you have having your war on your territory. But it's not only peace and well-being that is our dream. We have some more sophisticated dreams, and they are part of human nature. We dream about eternity, infinity, about something which is beyond our life and beyond the death. And I think if we know how to articulate it, if we know how to express our desire for ideals which are bigger than life, then we have a chance, and we will make films which are universal. It doesn't matter very much if we correct view on our past and say who was worse in fraternal fight on your territory, on Hungarian, on Polish territory. These old politicians believe that when you make a correct film, people will change their memory. I don't believe it. And films which are made on commission are very seldom precious. Usually they are banal. But let us remember that we have to formulate these dreams, these deep desires about things which are bigger than life. West of Europe is deeply in crisis now because old European dream seems to be questioned today. But we had our dreams of living in freedom and in prosperity, and we know that freedom and prosperity is not enough. We need more. There is always something like horizon, and we want to go farther. So more we express our deep dreams, more chance we have to reach larger audience outside our own country. So let us look on what kind of dreams we have and how we may express them.
Thank you. Somebody else, Vratislav, your ideas?
Well, I would just, it's kind of key to keep looking, you know, like not to give up, because there's obviously like some historical connections, but there's not many stories that you can just simply come up with. It has to be sort of hard work, looking for it, understanding the audience, finding the connection in audience and ideas, and connect these two. And I would say, like, I would believe in family movies. I think that's something that could travel between the countries. And I would believe in genre films, from crime even to something like horror and similar genres that do have this quality that kind of translates internationally. But I think it can just start with a cooperation, maybe a little bit more technical than ideas, you know, sharing locations, sharing talent, sharing crews. And that's when the connection is built, then the ideas can sort of spark within people, and we can find more common subjects.
This is very interesting because I can say, for example, when we started, somebody asked me how it was this Visegrad screenings, and I can say that Czech movie about Havel was very popular, and it was a big interest for this movie. So really there are some historical persons who are still very interested in common ideas, Julieta, maybe you would like to say something too. You have some experiences with co-production, of course.
Yes, well, I was recently actually offered several quite interesting projects from the Ukraine that were all interested in co-production with Czech Republic. And the project that I kind of found most interesting, I mean, it was a historical project, but it was a fictional project. It was not based on a true story, on real events. And it was a story of an artist living in a world which is kind of preventing the artist from pursuing her career, from doing what she wants. And I think that such topics are very deeply somehow rooted in our society and in the Ukrainian society, going back to the history that we all faced times when we were not allowed to do things, and when artists couldn't speak up their minds. So for me, this was a very interesting topic, even though it's completely set in the Ukraine, but this kind of like idea behind the story, which is very close to us, to the Ukrainian. I think those projects can really travel well.
Thank you. But what I would like to discuss a little bit, Mr. Zanussi told about his new project, that at first it was planned for great Ukrainian actor Bogdan Stupka, who is not with us, unfortunately. And this is a question for me about new situation, that we lost the distribution between our countries, and we don't know a lot about the modern stars in our countries. You know that in 70s or 80s, such actors as Beata Tyszkiewicz and Daniel Elbrychski, Eva Rudkaj and Marie Torychik, Jana Brejchova and Vlastimil Brodsky, and Emilia Bashkiryova. They were the stars like Robert De Niro in the Soviet Union. And now it's very difficult to how to say, to find this, because anyway, the stars are the main, sometimes the big part of the movie and viewers' interest. How to reorganize this? For example, Daniel Elbrychski was one day for shooting in Ukraine. Sergei Lavrenyuk, the producer of this film, McGregor, he planned to be with us tonight, this evening, but he was not able. And nobody knows. Before such star in airport or somewhere, it's a big interest. Now nobody knows who it is. What do you think about this? How to replace this interest, not only for De Niro or somebody else, but really for the actors from our countries, because everybody, we have very good actors. Who is the first brave to answer?
Sure. I would be happy to do that, but I wonder, do you hear me?
Yes.
Is my voice?
Yes.
Oh, I see, because I didn't hear you. Well, one thing is purely industrial. We don't have a market, and that's why we don't produce stars. During Soviet Union, Soviet films were dominating, but our films were moving from one country to another, so there was a base to create a stardom. Now we have it less or not at all, and it's more television that is creating stars, and television is more local than cinema, and so on and so on. But what is worth thinking to me is to think what kind of a hero public dreams about. What kind of a character? Do we want to see mediocre people, as it is commonly believed, and in many TV serials, you see most common characters like your neighbor. And is it enough to fascinate people? Or are we able to create some new heroes who are having some ideals and impress the people because they do more than the others? I think here is the problem, how we program our subject matters, and about what kind of people, about great lovers or about people who have just passing relationship with the others, about people who are moguls and creating great empires in a capitalist sense, like American cinema had in the 40s and 50s, or we shoot only films about losers and people who are victims of economical development. We must think mostly about, again, the dream, what people are dreaming about, and which actor, which actress is expressing this kind of quality that others don't, and that we all dream about. We want to meet such a person in life. So this is something that depends on artists. Market depends less on us. Market depends on money. And that's another question, but that's more problem for the distributors, for the producer, for the agents, how to launch an actor and how to create a common market for a new name. But our problem of artists is to say, to propose a new character different from the others, not like people in the past, but a person of future. And if you allow me to dismiss myself because I have somebody waiting for me in this dramatic time of coronavirus, we are meeting in a very uncomfortable conditions. So I will be happy to be with you, but I will have to leave you and wish our Visegrad circle to co-produce more. My experience was all positive. I worked with Hungarians, with Lithuanians, with Ukrainians, of course, and I think we have so much in common that we may really continue and do something good in future. All the best to all the participants. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this participation. Thank you. Yeah, of course, about distribution. This is a question, very important question. How to return our movies in our common cinemas. Of course, the festivals, international festivals are ruling this, as Молодість, as now Warsaw Film Festival in Karlovy Vary. We can see a lot of movies in Bratislava, etc., etc. But it's not enough. It's not enough, and if we co-produce together something, it's very important to have the strong distributor. Okay, your country, Ukraine, came a little bit later for this. It's very good that mostly we have now, each of our countries, for some movies, we have foreign companies as Match Factory or Celluloid Dreams or some another companies from France, Germany, and other countries. And now there is a big company in Poland who has a lot of a few movies anyway from our countries. But what to do with the films? Because each market is quite small. It's quite small. Really, what Mr. Zanussi told when it was the big Soviet Union with a huge market, really the huge market. It was much easier, but it's not nostalgia for that time, but how to reorganize our market. Because anyway, Scandinavian countries, Benelux countries, they made a lot for common distribution. I think it's one of the questions that we must think about. What is your opinions, colleagues?
I think it's a question also of the language, because in the past it was kind of natural that actors were dubbed, so it was easy to mix people from different countries. Now, of course, everybody wants to use the sound from the set if possible, and also, like, I made one co-production where we were facing also a problem of the body language, that the actors from different countries were really moving in a different way, and you could immediately see that they kind of like don't belong in that movie, if you know what I mean, that, you know, gestures are different, and even though the lip sync was okay, they still looked unnatural in the films. So those countries that you mentioned as good examples, that they co-produce among themselves, they distribute among themselves. From what I know, it's kind of okay that Benelux countries kind of rotate their actors, and also Nordic countries or Scandinavian countries exchange their actors, because it's most of either Danish or Swedish, or they can somehow cope with the language in the other country. So if we can somehow master that and master the body language, then it will be more open. But the problem is that we don't even have a big enough market for our own films and for our own stars. So how to import stars from other countries and from you know, and to make them shine in other films. We had that actually in one very popular Czech movie. There was a Polish actress, so sometimes it happens that it kind of works very well with some of the films. But it's not something which creates a new star system that you would say, oh, suddenly this Polish actress or this Ukrainian actress becomes a star in another country. So I think it's several aspects. It's probably that it's not very good time for cinemas in general. That what was mentioned already here, that stars are actually those people that we know from TV screens, not those that we know from cinema screens. Plus, if you have a foreign actor who behaves strangely and doesn't really master your language, I think it's all a more complex problem. And if we try to really if we want to create a platform, then the only platform is probably film festivals where films from other countries can be seen and appreciated.
Yeah, but sometimes, you know, when we started, when Ukraine, after independence of Ukraine, I remember my conversation with one Polish producer about he really was very interested to sell his movie in Ukraine. But the price that he started was about €1 million. And, you know, it's not the price for the big blockbuster from France, and et cetera. So we must think about this. Of course, it's not the big money, but we must start. And I remember, for example, you know, when after Ukrainian independence and little bit separated market, the big problem that we are still colonial market from Moscow. But I remember how one head of Gaumont company came to Ukraine, and he started with very small price for some French comedies and so on. So we must think how to make this step, not to think about the big money, but to make the first step, maybe something to exchange the films. For example, maybe for one artistic movie theater somewhere, something this. Of course, that is very, very good when we organize some film weeks that for many years we organized in December in Prague, Ukrainian Film Week, and we have now, we'll start Polish Film Week in Ukraine. Of course, it's not the good time now to speak about this, with all these problems with COVID. But I think we must think about this. So, anyway.
I just want to add, I think that we have to sort of see VOD as not as an enemy of cinema, but something complementary, because I think, you know, watching films where you want to watch them actually opens new possibilities. And if we do get our films on VOD and people start watching them, I think VOD platforms like Netflix are very successful with local languages internationally. And that's one of the keys. And there's also studies that people who subscribe to platforms will then go to cinemas. So I think the key is not only sort of keeping this traditional way of distribution, but also, you know, investing into VOD, and this is the way to create a common market.
So I'm sure, because Maria, we have not a lot of time more, and I was sure that we cannot find the solution and some received how to kill COVID and how to organize our big co-production. But I'm very glad that somebody new met each other, and we have now some very good, I hope, our connection, and we'll share some our ideas. And sometimes, for example, I think that maybe it's we can vote that for Wrathislav will be his duty to organize this vote platform for Visegrad countries and Ukraine. Are you agree with me? You can vote. Wrathislav, it's a very good idea, and try to do this. We'll help you. So, Maria, you wanted to say something, and we must finish, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think it is also the matter of promotion. We definitely do not have enough promotion of films from Visegrad countries and from Ukraine. So what we do, we also support minority co-productions in terms of promotion, at least, for example, at least for some Polish artists to come to the festival, for example. And now it is even in terms of platforms, it is even a bigger challenge, because usually you create an awareness of the film in the cinemas. So what we can do now when films go directly to platforms. So I think we need to, just to summarize, I think we need to think more about mutual promotion also, to make awareness, to create awareness of the films from this region. Because other way, you know, no any distributor would risk to buy a film if he or she didn't hear about it.
Sure, it's very, and I'm really very grateful, because usually a few times a week I'll check your site by Polish Institute. I like it, and there are a lot of information. And this is really important. This is really important to promote our artists, our films, our festivals. That is very important too. And thank you very much for participation. We'll be in touch. I hope, I don't know how it will, maybe in Berlin at least, we can meet together and maybe to have a cup of coffee, or maybe Ukrainian gorilka, or something else. Everybody can bring something with you. So many thanks, and you know each other. And for example, I can say that here you have two beautiful women from Ukraine and one very beautiful man too, not about me, about Stanislav, of course. And you can really connect with them about co-production between our countries. And we are ready, and Молодість will help you to find some connections and your partners in Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Andrei,
Let's keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.